The bridge of the exploration vessel Horizon hummed with the quiet efficiency of a well-oiled machine. Captain Tom Reed sat in his command chair, blue eyes fixed on the vast starscape that stretched before him. His ship was 3 months into its patrol route through the outer colonies, and so far, it had been uneventful, perhaps too uneventful. "Status report," he called out, more from habit than necessity. First Officer Lisa Bell looked up from her console. "All systems normal, Captain. We'll reach Colony Outpost 7 in about 48 hours. Tom nodded. Lisa was reliable, steady, and sharp. He'd served with her for 5 years now, and in that time, she'd never once let him down. Unlike some of the newer crew members, she didn't get caught up in wild stories or space myths. "Sir," called Tactical Officer James Wilson from his station, "I'm picking up something strange on long-range sensors." James was young but skilled, with a keen eye for details others might miss. "It's gone now, but for a moment, there was something." Engineer Mike Cooper snorted from where he was checking system diagnostics. "Probably just sensor ghosts. This region is known for magnetic disturbances." "It wasn't a disturbance," James insisted. "It had a pattern to it." "Don't tell me you believe in the ghost ship too," Mike said with a laugh. "Next you'll be saying it was the Spectre itself coming to haunt us." Tom raised an eyebrow. "The what?" Lisa sighed. "It's nothing, Captain. Just an old story that's been circulating among the outer colonies. Supposedly, there's a phantom ship that appears and disappears near the Orion Nebula. Some say it's a lost military vessel from the early colony wars." "It's not just a story," communications specialist Anna Ward chimed in, turning in her chair. Her eyes were bright with excitement. "My cousin works on Mining Station Delta, and they saw it last month. A massive ship, old Earth design, that appeared on their sensors for 3 minutes then vanished completely." Tom leaned back in his chair. "I've been patrolling this sector for 15 years. If there was a ghost ship out here, I think I would have seen it by now." "That's what makes it a ghost, Captain," Anna replied with a smile. "It only shows itself when it wants to be seen." Mike laughed again, or when someone's had too much synthetic alcohol. The conversation was interrupted by a beep from Lisa's console. "Captain, incoming transmission from Colony Outpost 7. They're requesting we make a slight detour. There's someone there who wants to meet with us." Tom frowned. "Did they say who or why?" "Just that it's important. Something about unusual activity in the sector." "Plot the course," Tom ordered. "Let's see what's so important." 2 days later, the Horizon docked at Colony Outpost 7, a spinning ring-shaped station that served as a supply hub for the mining operations in the area. Tom and Lisa made their way through the crowded main concourse, past traders and miners and families going about their daily business. The station administrator, a thin woman named Keller, led them to a small meeting room near the outer ring. "He's been waiting for you," she said. "Keeps saying he has information that could save lives." When the door slid open, Tom was surprised to see an old man sitting at the table. He must have been at least 90, with a weathered face and silver hair. His right arm was mechanical, an older model prosthetic that spoke of military service long ago. "Captain Reed," the old man said, his voice surprisingly strong. "I'm John Gray, former lieutenant on the UES Dauntless. I served during the colony wars." Tom sat down across from him. "What can I do for you, Lieutenant Gray?" "It's just Gray now." The old man's eyes were sharp, alert. "I hear your ship has been detecting unusual readings in Sector 12. Tom exchanged a quick glance with Lisa. They hadn't reported any sensor anomalies to the station. "What makes you say that?" "Because that's where it begins. First, the sensor readings that don't make sense. Then sightings at the edge of visual range. Finally, if you're unlucky, a full encounter." Gray leaned forward. "You're on a collision course with the ghost, Captain." Lisa frowned. "You mean the Spectre? That's just a story people tell." "Is it?" Gray's mechanical hand tapped the table rhythmically. 80 years ago, I was on a patrol just like yours when we encountered the UES Spectre, a stealth ship on a classified mission. We exchanged communications, logged their position, and went on our way. His eyes grew distant. 3 days later, they'd vanished from all tracking systems. The official report said they were lost with all hands due to a drive malfunction. I'm sorry, Tom said. Losing fellow soldiers is always hard. You don't understand, Gray said. 6 months after they disappeared, the Spectre appeared again, right in the middle of a skirmish with rebel forces. It fired on the enemy ships, saved our entire squadron, and then vanished again before we could make contact. Tom studied the old man's face for signs of senility or deception, but found only earnest concern. Even if I believed you, what does this have to do with us? Because it's happening again. Over the past month, there have been 7 sightings in your patrol area. The pattern is the same as 80 years ago. Gray slid a data chip across the table. These are all the records I've managed to gather. Sensor readings, visual data, everything. Tom pocketed the chip. I'll look into it, but I can't promise anything. Just be careful, Captain, Gray warned. The Spectre isn't dangerous on its own, but where it goes, trouble follows. And if you do see it, his voice dropped. Remember that not all ghosts know they're dead. Back on the horizon, Tom called his senior officers to the briefing room and played the data from Gray's chip. The sensor readings showed brief energy spikes throughout sector, appearing and disappearing with no discernible pattern. It could be anything, Mike said with a dismissive wave. Solar flares, asteroid impacts, illegal mining operations. James shook his head. Look at the energy signature. It's military grade and old. Really old. So maybe it's debris from the colony wars, Lisa suggested. There were dozens of battles fought in this region. Anna, who had been quiet until now, pointed to a section of data. These communication fragments. They are using encryption protocols that haven't been used in decades. And look at the timestamps. There's a pattern. Tom looked closer at the data. Anna was right. When arranged chronologically, the appearances weren't random at all. They were systematic, like a search pattern. Whatever this is, Tom said slowly, it's moving with purpose, and its next appearance should be. He traced the pattern forward, here, near Mining Outpost 42. That's less than a day's journey at maximum speed. Lisa noted. Tom stood up. Plot a course. If there's something out there, ghost ship or not, I want to know what it is before it reaches any civilian outposts. As the officers filed out, Tom stayed behind, staring at the display. The rational part of his mind told him there had to be a logical explanation for the anomalies. Ships didn't just disappear and reappear across decades. But after 15 years in deep space, he'd learned one important lesson. The universe was stranger than anyone imagined, and some legends had their roots in truth. The question was, what truth lay behind the legend of the ghost ship? And more importantly, what would happen when they found it? The horizon cut through the darkness of space. Engines pushed to maximum as they raced toward Mining Outpost 42. Captain Tom Reed hadn't slept in nearly 20 hours, but adrenaline kept him alert. If the pattern held true, whatever was causing the strange readings would appear within the next 6 hours. Status report, he called, rubbing his tired eyes. All systems running at peak efficiency, Engineer Mike Cooper replied from his station. Though I still think we're chasing shadows. Lisa Bell shot Mike a warning look before turning to Tom. We're 3 hours from the predicted coordinates, Captain. No unusual readings yet. Tom nodded and stood up to stretch his legs. The bridge was tense, each crew member feeling the weight of anticipation. Even Mike, for all his skepticism, checked his readings more carefully than usual. Captain, Anna Ward called suddenly from communications. I'm picking up something strange. Everyone turned toward her station. It's a transmission, but Anna's fingers flew over her console. It's using an old military frequency, and the encryption is like nothing I've seen before. Can you decode it? Tom asked, moving to stand behind her. Anna shook her head. I'm trying, but it's complex. Wait, I'm getting fragments now. She activated the ship's speakers, and a broken voice filled the bridge. Patrol sector. Unknown contacts. Request immediate. Standard protocols. The voice faded in and out, distorted by static and something else. A strange warping effect that made it sound both distant and too close at the same time. That doesn't sound like a recording, James said from Tactical. That sounds live. But who would be using military frequencies that haven't been active for decades? Lisa asked. Tom turned to her. The ghost ship. For once, no one laughed or rolled their eyes. The voice on the transmission sounded real. A person speaking in the present, using protocols from the past. Anna, keep working on that transmission. See if you can clean it up or respond on the same frequency, Tom ordered. James, I want all sensors at maximum sensitivity. If there's anything out there larger than a pebble, I want to know about it. Captain, Mike called, his usual skepticism absent from his voice. I'm detecting an energy signature at the edge of our sensor range. It just appeared. On screen, Tom commanded. The main view screen shifted to show a distant section of space, filled with asteroids and debris. At first, Tom saw nothing unusual. Then, between two large asteroids, something moved. Magnify, he ordered. The image zoomed in, and Tom felt his breath catch. There, partially hidden by the asteroid field, was a ship. But unlike any ship he'd seen before, its design was clearly human but from an era long past. Sleek and predatory, with sharp angles and massive gun emplacements that modern ships had abandoned decades ago. Most striking was its color, or rather, the lack of it. The hull was a deep, light-absorbing black that seemed to bend the starlight around it. In places, the darkness shimmered and shifted, as if the ship wasn't fully solid. That's it, Anna whispered. The Spectre. Tom stared at the image, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. Can we get any readings from it? Negative, James replied, his voice tight. Our sensors are having trouble locking on. It's like the ship is flickering in and out of normal space. It matches no known ship design in our database, Lisa reported. But the general configuration is consistent with heavy cruisers from the late Colony War era. The markings, Anna pointed to faded symbols visible on one section of the hull. Those are Earth military insignias from 80 years ago. Mike, who had been silent, suddenly spoke up. Captain, that ship is powering up. I'm detecting energy buildup consistent with weapon systems. Shields up, Tom ordered. Battle stations. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, but there was a new tension in their movements. This wasn't a pirate vessel or a known enemy. This was something else entirely. Should we arm weapons? James asked, finger hovering over the tactical controls. Tom hesitated. No, not yet. Let's see what they do first. The minutes ticked by intense silence as the mysterious vessel continued to power up its systems. On the view screen, more details became visible as dormant sections of the ship came to life. It was massive, at least twice the size of the horizon, and despite its age, looked deadly efficient. Captain, Anna called. I've managed to open a channel on their frequency. Put me through, Tom said, straightening his uniform. Anna nodded, and Tom spoke clearly. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Tom Reed of the exploration vessel Horizon. We mean you no harm. Please identify yourself. Silence filled the bridge as they waited for a response. Then, after what felt like an eternity, a voice crackled through the speakers. This is the United Earth Ship Spectre. You are in restricted military space. Identify yourself and your purpose immediately. The voice was firm, commanding, and completely serious about a restricted zone that hadn't existed for decades. Tom exchanged glances with Lisa before responding. UES Spectre, we are on a routine patrol mission. There is no restricted zone in this sector. It's open space near Mining Outpost 42. Another long pause followed. Your information is incorrect. The voice finally replied. This sector is under military quarantine by order of Earth Command. All civilian vessels are to withdraw immediately. Earth Command. Lisa whispered. That command structure was dissolved 60 years ago after the unification. Tom nodded grimly. Anna, are we getting any visual on their bridge? Negative, Captain. They're only transmitting audio. Tom thought quickly. If this truly was the legendary ghost ship, they were dealing with a crew that might be operating under outdated information, or worse, trapped in some kind of temporal anomaly, where the colony wars were still ongoing. UES Spectre, Tom said carefully, what is the current date according to your ship's log? The question was met with silence. They're scanning us, James reported suddenly. Deep scan. They're looking at everything. Our engines, weapons, even our hull composition. Let them look, Tom said. They're trying to figure out who we are, just like we're trying to figure out who they are. The voice from the Spectre returned, now with an edge of confusion. Your ship design is unknown to us. Identify your maker and allegiance. We are an Earth vessel, Tom replied. We represent the United Colonies, the government formed after the colony wars ended. After the wars ended. The voice had changed, now filled with disbelief. What year do you claim it is? Tom met Lisa's eyes before answering. By the standard Earth calendar, it's 2472. The silence that followed was heavy. When the voice returned, it was lower, almost a whisper. That's impossible. Our chronometers read 2392. 80 years difference, Anna said quietly. Exactly what Gray told us. Before Tom could respond, James called out, Captain. Energy spike. There. His words were cut off by a brilliant flash of light. The horizon rocked violently as alarms blared across the bridge. Report, Tom shouted, grabbing his chair for support. They fired a warning shot. James called back, fingers flying over his console. High-energy beam weapon. Nothing like what we have. It passed within 50 meters of our bow. Damage? None, but our shields wouldn't have stopped it if they'd aimed directly at us. Mike reported, face pale. That technology it's beyond anything I've ever seen. On the view screen, the Spectre was now fully visible, its engines glowing with an eerie blue light. The ship was no longer hiding. They're hailing us again, Anna reported. Tom straightened himself. Put them through. The voice that came through was cold and precise. That was a demonstration. The next will not miss. You will power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with lethal force. Tom realized that the encounter had just escalated from mysterious to dangerous. Whatever the Spectre was, ghost ship, time anomaly, or something else entirely, it now saw the horizon as a threat. And based on that warning shot, it had the firepower to back up its threats. Lower shields and prepare to be boarded. Not a chance, Tom said firmly, gripping the arms of his captain's chair. He turned to Lisa. Options. Lisa's mind worked quickly. We can't outgun them. That warning shot proved that. But maybe we can outrun them. Mike, what's your assessment of their propulsion system? Tom asked. The engineer studied his readings. Hard to tell. Their technology is both advanced and outdated at the same time. But if that energy signature is any indication, they might be faster than us too. Anna suddenly straightened in her seat. Captain, they're gone. What? Tom turned to the main screen. Where the massive form of the Spectre had been moments before, there was nothing but empty space and distant asteroids. Sensors confirm, James reported, bewildered. No trace of the vessel. It's like it just vanished. Tom stood up, staring at the empty space. That's impossible. A ship that size can't just disappear. Unless it's truly a ghost, Anna whispered. Or has technology we don't understand. Lisa countered. Some kind of cloaking system, maybe. Mike shook his head. No cloaking technology I know of can hide a ship that completely. Even the best stealth systems leave some trace. Heat, gravity distortion, something. Keep scanning, Tom ordered. They're out there somewhere. The bridge fell silent as each officer focused on their tasks, searching for any sign of the mysterious vessel. Minutes stretched into an hour with no results. Finally, Tom sighed. Set course back to Colony Outpost 7. We need to report this to Command. 3 days later, the Horizon was docked at Colony Outpost 7. Tom sat in a secure communication room, facing the stern image of Admiral Jones on the screen. "Let me get this straight, Captain," the Admiral said, his bushy eyebrows drawn together. "You're claiming to have encountered a ship that's been missing for 80 years, which fired on you with unknown technology, and then vanished without a trace." "Yes, sir," Tom replied. "I know how it sounds, but my entire bridge crew witnessed it. We have sensor logs and recordings of the communications." The Admiral was silent for a moment. "Your logs show some kind of vessel. I'll grant you that. But the Spectre. That ship was lost with all hands in 2392. That's exactly the year they thought it was, sir," Tom pointed out. Admiral Jones sighed heavily. "I sent your data to our analysts. In the meantime, I'm assigning the Horizon to investigate further. If this is the Spectre, we need to know how it's still operational and what happened to its crew." Tom nodded. "What about the mining outposts in the region? If the Spectre is hostile?" "We've already issued warnings to all facilities in the sector," the Admiral assured him. "But your priority is to find that ship again. We need answers, not just ghost stories." "Understood, sir." As the Admiral's image faded from the screen, Tom felt the weight of the mission settle on his shoulders. Finding a ship that could appear and disappear at will wouldn't be easy. Back on the Horizon, Tom called a meeting in the ship's library, a small room filled with data terminals and actual physical books, a rarity on modern vessels. "I've been granted access to classified military archives," he told his senior officers. "If we're going to find the Spectre again, we need to understand what we're dealing with." He activated the main screen, displaying old technical schematics and mission reports. The UES Spectre was part of a classified program called Project Phantom. They were developing stealth technology that would allow ships to operate behind enemy lines during the colony wars. "What kind of stealth technology?" Mike asked, leaning forward with interest. "That's where it gets strange," Tom replied. "Most of the technical details are still classified, but there are references to phase shifting and temporal displacement throughout the reports." "Time travel?" Anna asked, eyes wide. "Not exactly," Lisa said, scrolling through the data. "More like existing slightly out of phase with normal spacetime. Theoretically, it would make a ship nearly impossible to detect." James frowned. "But the reports also mentioned side effects. Crew experiencing temporal disorientation and reality slippage, which could explain why they think it's still 2392. Tom noted. "What if the ship's technology somehow isolated them from the normal flow of time?" Mike looked skeptical. "That's a big leap, Captain." "Maybe," Tom agreed. "But it would explain how a ship could disappear for decades and then reappear with a crew that hasn't aged." Anna, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. "I've been analyzing the pattern of Spectre sightings over the past month." She pulled up a star chart on her tablet. "They're not random. Look, each appearance is near a mining facility or automated extraction site. They're gathering resources," Lisa realized. "But for what?" Tom wondered. The answer came 3 days later when an emergency transmission reached the Horizon from Mining Station Delta. "This is Station Chief Williams. We're under attack. An unknown vessel appeared from nowhere, and wait, they're not attacking us. They're taking our processed duranium shipment." Tom immediately ordered full speed to the mining station, but by the time they arrived, the Spectre was long gone, along with 20 tons of refined uranium, a key component in high-performance energy systems. Over the next 2 weeks, the pattern repeated. The Spectre would appear, take specific resources from mining operations, always uranium, specialized alloys, or rare elements, and vanish before the horizon could intercept. They're gathering materials to repair something, Mike concluded after analyzing the theft reports. Probably their propulsion system or whatever device allows them to phase in and out of normal space. But why now? Lisa asked. If they've been stuck in some kind of temporal bubble for 80 years, what changed? Tom had no answer, but he was determined to find out. In his quarters that night, Tom studied the reports of every Spectre sighting, looking for any clue they might have missed. His eyes burned from lack of sleep, but he couldn't rest. Not while the ghost ship remained a mystery. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he called. Mike entered, holding a small device in his hands. "Captain, I think I've figured out how to track them." Tom sat up straight. "How?" "Every time they phase in or out, they leave behind a specific energy signature, very faint, but detectable if you know what to look for." Mike set the device on Tom's desk. "I've modified one of our sensor arrays to detect these energy traces. They last about 6 hours after the ship disappears." Tom picked up the device, hope rising in his chest. "Can you track where they went?" Mike smiled. "Better. I can predict where they'll appear next." The horizon waited in empty space, all non-essential systems powered down to avoid detection. According to Mike's calculations, the Spectre would appear in this exact location within the next hour to collect radiation samples from a nearby pulsar. Tom paced the bridge, checking the time every few minutes. Any sign of them? "Nothing yet, Captain," James replied from Tactical. "But we're ready." The minutes ticked by slowly. Tom was beginning to wonder if Mike's calculations had been wrong when Anna suddenly straightened. "Captain, I'm detecting the energy signature. It's faint, but growing stronger." "All hands, battle stations," Tom ordered. "Shields up, but weapons on standby only. I want to talk to them before things escalate." The space before them seemed to ripple, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Then, with a flash of blue-white light, the massive form of the Spectre appeared, so close that it filled the entire view screen. "Got you," Tom said quietly. And this time, he wasn't going to let them disappear again. "Hail them," Tom ordered, his eyes fixed on the massive ship that loomed before them. Anna nodded, fingers dancing across her console. "Channel open, Captain." Tom took a deep breath. "UES Spectre, this is Captain Tom Reed of the Horizon. We mean you no harm. We only want to talk." The bridge crew waited in tense silence. The Spectre hung motionless in space, its dark hull absorbing the light of nearby stars. It looked both ancient and timeless, a relic from the past that somehow seemed more advanced than their own modern vessel. Finally, a voice responded. "This is Commander David Miller of the UES Spectre. Why have you been following us, Horizon?" Tom glanced at Lisa before responding. "We've been trying to understand who you are and what you're doing in this sector. The UES Spectre was declared lost 80 years ago." Another long pause followed. When Commander Miller spoke again, his voice had lost some of its hardness. "Captain Reed, I'm willing to meet with you to discuss our situation. You may dock with us. Bring no more than 3 officers, and come unarmed." "Understood," Tom replied. "We'll approach for docking." As the communication ended, Lisa immediately objected. "Captain, you can't seriously be considering this. It could be a trap." "It's our best chance to get answers," Tom said firmly. "Lisa, you and Mike will come with me. James, you have the bridge. If we don't check in every 30 minutes, take the Horizon back to Outpost 7 and report to Admiral Jones." James nodded grimly. "Understood, sir." As they prepared for the docking, Mike approached Tom in the shuttle bay. "I've analyzed more of their energy readings," he said quietly. "Whatever technology they're using, it's unstable. There are radiation patterns I've never seen before. All the more reason to find out what's happening, Tom replied, checking his communicator. The short journey from the horizon to the Spectre was tense. Tom watched through the shuttle viewport as they approached the ghost ship's docking bay, a massive dark opening in the hull that seemed to swallow light rather than reflect it. "Look at the hull," Lisa whispered as they got closer. "Those aren't battle scars." Tom saw what she meant. The ship's exterior was covered in strange patterns, rippling distortions in the metal itself, as if the hull had partially melted and reformed countless times. What could cause that? Mike wondered. "Let's find out," Tom said as their shuttle slid into the docking bay. The interior of the Spectre was unlike any ship Tom had ever seen. The corridors were standard military design from the era, but everything had a strange, fluid quality to it. Walls seemed to shimmer slightly when viewed from the corner of the eye. Light panels flickered with patterns that felt almost alive. They were met by two security officers in old Earth military uniforms. The officers looked young, no more than 30, but their eyes held an unsettling weariness. "Commander Miller is waiting in the briefing room," one said, his voice flat. "Follow us." As they walked through the ship, Tom noticed how quiet it was. A vessel this size should have had a crew of at least 200, but they passed fewer than a dozen people. Everyone they saw had the same tired, distant look in their eyes. The briefing room was large and dominated by a central table. Standing at its head was a tall man with close-cropped gray hair and a trim beard. His uniform bore the insignia of a commander in the old Earth fleet, but it looked worn and had been repaired many times. "Captain Reed," he said, extending his hand. "Commander David Miller. Welcome aboard the Spectre." Tom shook his hand, noting the firm grip. "This is my first officer, Lisa Bell, and Chief Engineer, Mike Cooper." Miller nodded to them, then gestured to chairs. "Please, sit. I imagine you have many questions." "More than I can count," Tom admitted as they sat down. "Starting with how a ship that disappeared 80 years ago is still operational with a crew that should be long dead." Miller's face showed no surprise at the statement. He simply nodded. "From your perspective, the Spectre vanished 80 years ago. From ours, it's been just under 10 years. How is that possible?" Lisa asked. "The phase shift drive," Miller replied, activating a holographic display in the center of the table. An image appeared showing a complex device, unlike any engine Tom had seen before. "The Spectre was developed as the ultimate stealth vessel," Miller explained. "The phase shift drive was designed to move the ship slightly out of phase with normal spacetime, making us essentially invisible to sensors and even the naked eye." Mike leaned forward, fascinated. "You exist in a different dimension." "Not exactly," Miller said. "Think of it more like operating at a different frequency. We're still in the same space, but vibrating at a different rate, so to speak." "What went wrong?" Tom asked. Miller's face grew somber. "Our first test of the phase shift drive at full power. We were supposed to shift just enough to avoid detection, but something malfunctioned. We shifted too far." He looked down at his hands. "When we managed to shift back, our communications were dead. No one responded to our signals. When we finally reached Earth, everything had changed." "You experienced time dilation," Mike said with dawning understanding. "While you were phase shifted, time passed differently for you than for the rest of the universe." Miller nodded. "For us, we were gone for 3 weeks. For everyone else, it had been 79 years. "And your crew?" Lisa asked gently. "We started with a crew of 200, Miller said. "We've lost 74 to various complications of phase shifting. The human body wasn't meant to exist between states of reality." He gestured to a younger officer standing quietly in the corner. "There are only 6 of us left now. The rest of the ship's functions are automated." Tom felt a wave of sympathy for these people, lost in time, isolated from everything they had known. "The materials you've been taking from the mining stations are to repair our phase shift drive," Miller confirmed. "It was damaged during our last shift. We need to fix it before we can attempt a controlled return to our own time. Your own time, Tom repeated. You're trying to go back. It's our only hope, Miller said simply. We don't belong here. This isn't our world, our time. And the longer we stay partially phase-shifted, the more the crew deteriorates. We've calculated that if we can reverse the shift process precisely, we might be able to return to the exact moment we left. Mike looked skeptical. That's theoretically possible, but the precision required would be astronomical. One tiny miscalculation, and you could end up even further displaced, or worse. We're aware of the risks, Miller said firmly. But we have to try. We have families, Captain Reed. Children who grew old and died thinking we abandoned them. Parents who never knew what happened to us. His voice grew quiet. We've seen our own gravestones. Tom felt the weight of Miller's words. These weren't ghosts or enemies. They were lost soldiers trying to find their way home. Commander, Tom said carefully, I want to help you. But I need to ensure the safety of this sector. Your ship has been causing fear among the colonies. Miller smiled sadly. We never meant to frighten anyone. We've been trying to minimize our interactions. The warning shot was a miscalculation. We thought you might be pirates targeting the mining stations. We can help explain the situation to command, Lisa offered. Get you official assistance instead of having to steal materials. Miller shook his head. We don't have time for bureaucracy. Our chief scientist estimates we have less than a month before the phase shift becomes irreversible. We need to complete repairs and attempt the time jump before then. Tom considered this information. At least let us provide some of the materials you need. Legitimately, it would be faster and safer than raiding mining stations. Miller seemed about to reply when alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. A voice came over the intercom. Commander, unknown vessels approaching at high speed. They're charging weapons. Miller was on his feet instantly. Get to the bridge, he ordered his officers. Then, to Tom, it seems we have company, Captain Reed, and they don't appear as friendly as you. Tom followed Commander Miller at a run through the shimmering corridors of the Spectre. Lisa and Mike kept pace behind them as alarms continued to blare throughout the ship. Who would be attacking us? Tom asked as they hurried toward the bridge. Pirates, most likely, Miller replied grimly. The outer colonies have always attracted those who prey on isolated outposts. Some things never change, even after 80 years. The bridge of the Spectre was a stark contrast to the horizons, where Tom's ship featured modern holographic displays and ergonomic stations. The Spectre's bridge was all metal and hard angles, with physical controls and view screens that seemed ancient yet somehow more solid than their modern counterparts. Only 5 officers manned the bridge, far fewer than would be needed for a ship this size. Each person operated multiple stations, moving between them with practiced efficiency. Report, Miller ordered as he took the captain's chair. A young woman with short blonde hair looked up from the tactical station. 6 vessels, Commander, matching known pirate configurations. They've surrounded our position and are charging weapons. Miller turned to Tom. Your ship is in danger too, Captain. Tom immediately activated his communicator. Read to Horizon. James, we have hostiles approaching. 6 pirate vessels. Get the shields up and prepare for evasive action. Already on it, Captain, James's voice replied. They came out of nowhere. Shields at maximum, but we're outnumbered. Miller studied the tactical display. They want the Spectre, he said. Our technology would make them unstoppable in this region. We need to coordinate our defense, Tom suggested. Together, we might stand a chance. Miller nodded. Agreed. He turned to his tactical officer. Lieutenant Wright, link our targeting systems with the horizon. Let's show these pirates what 2 Earth vessels can do. The next few minutes were a flurry of activity as the crews of both ships prepared for battle. Tom watched with admiration as the skeleton crew of the Spectre worked their stations with incredible skill and focus. They're hailing us, reported the Spectre's communications officer. On screen, Miller ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, showing a harsh-faced man with cybernetic implants covering half his face. Attention, unknown vessels. This is Captain Vex of the Free Raiders. That antique ship of yours is now our property. Surrender and we'll let your crews live as laborers in our mining operations. Miller's face remained impassive. This antique has more firepower than your entire fleet, Captain Vex. I suggest you withdraw. Vex laughed, the sound metallic and cold. Big words from a crew of ghosts. Yes, we know about the legendary ghost ship. After today, we'll be the ones controlling the legend. The screen went dark, and Miller turned to Tom. Get back to your ship, Captain Reed. This is about to get very dangerous. Tom shook his head. No, my crew can handle the horizon. I'm staying here to help coordinate our defense. A hint of a smile touched Miller's face. Stubborn. I like that. He turned to his weapons officer. Targeting solutions on all pirate vessels. Prioritize their weapon systems. Sir, the young officer replied. Phase cannons are only at 60% capacity. The drive repairs have drained most of our power reserves. Miller's expression darkened. Then we'll have to make every shot count. Tom moved to the communication station. Reed to Horizon. Lisa, Mike and I are staying aboard the Spectre to coordinate. Take positions on the far side of the ghost ship and focus fire on any vessel that attempts to flank us. Understood, Captain, James replied. Be careful over there. Here they come, Miller announced as the pirate ships accelerated toward them, energy weapons charging. The space around the two Earth vessels erupted in blazing light as the pirates opened fire. The Spectre rocked under the impact, but its ancient shields held. Return fire, Miller ordered calmly. The Spectre's weapons were unlike anything Tom had seen before. Beams of shifting blue-white energy lanced out from the ship, striking two pirate vessels with devastating accuracy. One pirate ship immediately lost power, drifting helplessly. The other spun away, its engines damaged. The Horizon added its more conventional weapons to the fight, targeting the smaller raider vessels that tried to circle behind the Spectre. For several minutes, the battle seemed evenly matched. Then three more pirate ships appeared on the edge of the sensor range. Reinforcements, Miller said grimly. They must want this ship badly. Tom studied the tactical display. We can't win against those numbers. Miller was silent for a moment, his eyes focused on something distant. Then he seemed to come to a decision. There is another option. He turned to his chief engineer. Status of the phase shift drive. The engineer looked alarmed. Sir, it's only partially repaired. A shift now could be catastrophic. Not a full shift, Miller clarified. Just enough to give us an edge. The engineer hesitated, then nodded. It might work. But it would burn out the drive completely. We'd never be able to attempt our return journey. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Tom realized what Miller was suggesting, sacrificing their only chance to return to their own time to save both ships in the present. Commander, Tom began. You don't have to. Yes, we do, Miller cut him off. Prepare the drive for a partial phase shift. Target the center of the pirate formation. As the engineers worked frantically at their stations, more pirate ships arrived. The Horizon took a direct hit to its port side, and James reported shield failures in that section. Drive ready, sir, the chief engineer finally reported. But I must emphasize, once we do this, there's no going back. Miller looked at his small crew, each face showing the same resolve. These people had already lost everything. Their families, their time, their world. Now they were about to lose their last hope of returning home. For Earth, Miller said quietly. Then and now. His crew nodded in unison. Execute phase shift, Miller ordered. The lights on the Spectre dimmed as power redirected to the experimental drive. Tom felt a strange sensation wash over him, like his body was becoming less solid, vibrating at a frequency just beyond perception. On the view screen, the pirate ships continued their approach, unaware of what was happening. Then the Spectre began to move, accelerating with impossible speed directly toward the center of the pirate formation. "What are you doing?" Tom asked, gripping a console for support as the ship shuddered around him. "When we phase shift, we briefly exist in both states," Miller explained, his voice strangely distant. "Half here, half elsewhere, passing through a solid object during that state." Understanding dawned on Tom. "It creates a massive energy release." Miller nodded, enough to disable their entire fleet without destroying them completely. The Spectre shot forward, its hull now shimmering with blue energy. It passed directly through the lead pirate vessel, causing no damage to either ship, but leaving a wake of crackling energy that overwhelmed the pirates' systems. One by one, the Spectre passed through or near each enemy ship, rendering them powerless without destruction. It was an awe-inspiring display of technology and precision. When it was over, the pirate fleet drifted harmlessly, their weapons and engines disabled. The Spectre returned to position beside the horizon, but Tom could see that the ghost ship was now in trouble. Its hull flickered in and out of visibility, energy discharges crawling across its surface. "The drive is overloading," Miller reported calmly. "We need to evacuate." For the next hour, the Horizon worked to rescue the remaining crew of the Spectre. As the last shuttle departed the ghost ship, Tom stood with Miller on the Horizon's observation deck, watching the ancient vessel continue its slow disintegration. "I'm sorry," Tom said quietly, "about your way home." Miller shook his head. "Perhaps this was always our destiny, Captain Reed. To be here, now, when we were needed." He turned away from the viewport. "Besides, we've been ghosts for too long. Maybe it's time to learn how to live again." As they watched, the Spectre gave one final brilliant flash of light and vanished. Whether it had been destroyed or had made one final phase shift to parts unknown, no one could say. 2 weeks later, Tom stood in Admiral Jones' office, finishing his report. "So the legendary ghost ship saved an entire sector from pirates, then disappeared again," the Admiral summarized. "And you're telling me its crew is now integrating into our society?" "Yes, sir," Tom confirmed. "Commander Miller and his remaining crew have been granted full citizenship and veteran status. Their knowledge of phase shift technology, even if we can't replicate it yet, has advanced our research by decades." The Admiral nodded thoughtfully. "And what about the Spectre itself? Do you believe it was truly destroyed?" Tom looked out the window at the stars. "The official record will show that the UES Spectre was lost with honors, saving Earth vessels from enemy attack." He paused. "But between us, sir, I'm not convinced we've seen the last of her." "Why do you say that, Captain?" Tom smiled slightly. "Because some legends never truly die. They just wait until they're needed again." In the years that followed, there would be stories. Unconfirmed reports from ships in danger suddenly finding themselves aided by a vessel that appeared from nowhere, delivered them from harm, and vanished again before proper identification could be made. Just stories, of course, just a legend. But as Commander Miller had taught him, sometimes legends have their roots in truth.